This is Justin Dean with Dean and DeWitt Property Management in St. Petersburg, Florida. Today I want to talk about proper screening. One of the challenges investors have is tenants that don't pay their rent on time, stop paying rent, and don't take care of the property. And I think a lot of that can be avoided by proper screening. When we screen our tenants, and I've been doing this for a long time, and we've signed thousands of leases and screened thousands of applicants, is that with proper screening, you can really weed out a lot of those people. And I can tell you over 10 years of property management, I can count on one hand how many people we've actually had to go to court with. And so it doesn't mean that every tenant works out great. But what I believe proper screening does is that when there is a problem, a tenant is lost their job and is falling behind on rent, or something else is going on, is that the tenants that we approve, that we've screened, they want to be proactive about problems. They don't want to ding on their credit. They don't want to be sent to collections. They definitely don't want to be evicted and have that following them. So when there is an issue, maybe again there's some kind of financial challenge, they are so much more likely to contact us and say, hey, I have a problem. What do I need to do to fix this? How can we resolve this? And it doesn't, again, it doesn't mean that everything works out perfectly, but it's going to be a lot better than that deadbeat tenant that's thinking, I need to milk every single day out of this rental without paying for as long as I possibly can. That's our worst case scenario. And if you do proper screening, you should be able to avoid those types of scenarios. So when a tenant does make an application, you want to make sure that you have a formal application that they complete, that they sign, that gives you permission to look into their credit and verify information that they've put on their application. You definitely want to team up with a screening company that's going to give you the most recent accurate information possible. A screening company should be able to provide you with their credit report, a criminal report, public records. Maybe someone doesn't have a criminal record and maybe they have okay credit, but you can find in their public records that they've been sued by their past landlord for damages. So you want to get that information as well. Some of the other things that we look at is previous address history. I want to know how often an applicant has moved. Maybe they're bouncing from house to house every 6 months. That's not our ideal tenant. We're looking for a long-term tenant that's going to pay their rent on time. Income. We want verified income. Not only do we ask for them to submit an application, we want to get pay stubs. We want to get 3 pay stubs from them. The last 3 pay stubs to verify that what they put on the application is what they actually make. So verifying income. In addition, we look at past landlord references. And I recommend you don't call their last landlord or their current landlord, because sometimes they might be in a bad situation and the landlord the only thing they want is to get that tenant out. So call that landlord that was their landlord 2 times ago, maybe 3 years ago or something, and get their opinion, because they're a lot more apt, to be honest with you. Outside of that, I would recommend that you make sure that the applicant and you know your policies, know your pet policies, know is it a smoke-free property, things like that. Maybe you can save a lot of time and not even having to show the property to that person that applied if they have a pet and you never told them that you're not allowing pets, or maybe you have breed restrictions. So there's some pre-screening that should go on prior to even meeting the person at the property. So between the pre-screening and then the actual screening of the property, or actual screening of the applicant, and verifying that information, I can assure you that you will weed out most of those kind of deadbeat tenants. There's nightmare stories that I hear from investors that I'm sure everyone else has heard of. It's someone that's lived in there for 6 months, they didn't pay rent, the place is trashed. I really think that 99% of the time, that's because proper screening wasn't done. There's a lot of other things you want to consider when it comes to screening a tenant. So if you're an investor in St. Petersburg, Florida, and currently own a rental or are thinking about owning a rental property, feel free to contact Dean and DeWitt Property Management. We'll be happy to answer your questions.